Hey, everybody, it's Honesty, and this is the Right Honesty podcast. We have a new to me author this week, but before we get into that, AG, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
I love it when you're wonderful. I'm happy to hear it. Um,
How are you, HP?
I'm okay.
The last time you were having a human experience.
I
And
was,
so,
you know what I'm just realizing while we're recording? I didn't post that the episode is live. I will need to do that.
yes, yes,
Um,
please.
Yeah,
Please
okay,
do.
but anyway, that's housekeeping. But I'm okay. I think I'm okay. I am working out some balance on my day job, and so
Ah,
it's interesting easing up and delegating and those things.
yes, yes. I never liked the word balance, though, in that context anymore, right? Balance only because balance calls to mind to me that everything being equal. And we know that stuff is never equal, right? It's
Right.
just figuring it out. It's juggling, like other words
Yes.
that better, I think, that more accurately describe. Look, sometimes you getting what you need, sometimes you not.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
so
yeah,
and so
yeah,
is
yeah.
getting what they need, right? This area of your life is getting what they need, and sometimes it's not, and that's just gonna have to be okay. Like what's going on is gonna have to be okay in the moment because it won't always be that way for better or worse. So,
Right. And I am a notorious because I'm accidentally in charge.
oh,
I didn't know that I shouldn't be in charge. But now that I've been in charge for so long, I'm realizing maybe I doesn't want to be in charge no more. which is which is motivating me to share responsibilities because secretly low key my plan is to tiptoe out the door and everybody will know where everything is and they'll know how to do everything and they will not be calling me because I have been the
hilarious.
person who after my last day they were like, listen, can we set up a contract
Oh my
so that
gosh.
you can come back and answer these questions? And if the money is right, my answer was always yes. But anyway, we on to something new. We on to a new to me author. Uh, and I have to say her books, the first one definitely, the second one I didn't finish reading until literally today. Um, but the first book snuck up on me. So this is Lyse, and we're talking about the Sunflower series. We read the first two books, which is Sunflower and Endgame, and
Saving Sunflower and the End
Saving
Game.
Sunflower. And
Hmm.
what you say?
Saving Sunflower and the End Game.
The End Game. Thank
Hmm.
you. So I was like,
Yep.
what happened? Okay. So um it is Saving Sunflower. It's not just Sunflower. That's true.
Correct.
So, like we always do, how did you come away from it?
I love this series. And funny enough, this was Ray's first foray into writing this series. Saving Sunflower came out in October of 2020. I had to go back and double check.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when it dropped, um, and it just was like this. People were like, "What is this?" And this
Mm.
is her first book. What? And of course, we were all still locked in our homes because it was knee deep in the pandemic, October 2020. But I love the series. I love the series, and I will say that saving. So the End Game is my favorite of the four, but the first two definitely grab me more, and have me more. I enjoyed Mo's story, which is Bunny, and Dre's story, which is 30. But there was just something about, I think it's just something about Dominic and Josiah that just, but Joe is my baby. Joe is my baby. So, I just want to rest his head in my ample bosom. So just, it just, she really wrote something special, that was very raw and real, and the social commentary that is weaved in the story of these two cousins,
Yeah.
and you're just in the midst of these love stories, but you're like, oh, how she do that, talking about the criminal justice system and saving, and then the student athlete
Mm-hmm.
system in the End Game. So loved them, loved them, loved them.
Yeah, I did too. I will say they snuck up on me because I have not been in the best of reading moods like in a long time. And when I'm cranky, like when I'm a cranky reader, I'm hypercritical. And
Yes. Yes.
wait a minute.
Mm.
I don't need the agreement to be that strong.
Mm.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Mm.
So that's why I say they snuck up on me, because Saving Sunflower, I read crankily.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until it was over and like a couple days went by, and then I couldn't stop thinking about them. And I even like ventured into like a little teeny tiny mental fan fiction, which that's when you
Mm-hmm.
know that I really am attached to some people if my brain makes another story for them.
Mm-hmm. That
So,
makes me very happy to hear that, because I have observed that
oh,
as your partner in podcast, your podcast bay. I can tell now, certain
first of
books that
all, how dare
we
you?
we won't call out any story
No, we can't
names,
tell her who it is.
right? But I have observed that, and I'm like, ooh, okay, she's not in a good mood, which means she's not in the spirit to like
Yeah, I
fully
don't read well when
luxuriate.
I'm, yeah.
And so I loved when you said, 'cause we'll be transparent, right? Like after you had finished, I you didn't say anything of but my sense, the vibe that
I
I was
wasn't
getting,
gushing.
right? You
Yeah.
weren't like, it was kind of like, So when you said to me, I they have been on my mind. I have not been able to stop thinking about them.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. It was maybe a week later.
Yep.
I was like, well, well,
How dare you?
okay. Because I'm kind of like, not that we love everything the same. We are different people. But I was like, was I this far off the mark? I don't
No, yeah.
was this far off the mark. So I got particular pleasure out of the fact that you were like, I can't stop thinking about them. And I was like, yeah, okay,
AG,
yeah,
AG strikes again.
yeah, good, 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 good.
Yeah, it was well, we can get into it. So y'all gonna hear me typing because I didn't I was not, my time management wasn't great. And so I'm still uh highlighting and making notes and stuff. So I'll try to minimize the typing while I'm talking so that at least y'all won't, I can edit it out. But anyway, so um Saving Sunflower is the story of Claudette
Hmm.
and
Dominic.
Dominic. I'm thinking Nick, but his name is Dominic.
Hmm.
And it is about their, I mean, of course, it's about their love story, but it takes there's an interesting arc in that she is more, she doesn't, I don't want to say, like, I don't want to say he's wrong side of the tracks and she's right side of the tracks, because it doesn't fully read that way.
Right.
But she is in school. She works at the Waffle House with her friend, and she's just kind of like all about making her life happen. She doesn't have
Yep.
a whole lot of family. Her relationship with her mother, we found out first, she doesn't have a relationship. I believe her mother just up and walks
Right.
away.
Yep.
And it's later in her life that she finds out that her mother didn't walk off the edge of the earth, but she's actually living and like not particularly far away, and just is choosing not to have a relationship with her.
Yep.
And once you get that reveal, it kind of colors her um it colors her behavior, and you understand her a little bit better.
Hmm.
That because one of our first introductions to her outside of her working with her friend is her getting a ride home with Dominique and I think Mo. I might have made that up.
Yes.
Maybe it's
Yes.
Mo.
It's Mo.
Okay.
Hmm.
Dominique and his friend, and they end up speaking, and Mo is Dominique's pretend manager. I mean, he is, but he ain't, right? Because Dominique is a rapper, and they're really just hustling, trying to make sense of it. But Dominique also does some things that are external to what's legal and some extra legal behavior.
He
And
robs and he sells guns
right,
and
he
he
just,
does what he got to do.
he
Yep.
not he not on the straight and narrow. And so they're basically Dominic and Mo are trying to negotiate something for him to appear at a club and rap, and she
Hmm.
pipes up,
Yep.
and he immediately, being his mind being what it is, he immediately picks up on her skill set, and he
Yep.
goes with it like it was supposed to happen.
Yep.
And that was, looking back, the beginning of what made me really intrigued by him, because only a hustler
Hmm.
can hear what they need to hear, make an an amazingly quick calculation, and then step right in line.
Yeah.
And so that's the beginning of their friendship. And slowly but surely they spend more and more time together. He, picks her up and from work when she's getting off in the middle of the night, and all of these things. And eventually they end up in a relationship, but there are, of course, some bumps along the way. And I
Yeah.
would say, even though their love was intentional, I think the relationship was unintentional for him. Like, it went further than he intended it to go. um, I think initially, because it wasn't like he was looking for a girlfriend,
Right.
he just
Right.
couldn't get rid of her, because once she had him, she had him.
Yeah, I think it was he also did not understand what was happening between them. So I think I agree with you in that it went further than he intended, because he didn't know how to categorize what was going on between them. Similar to her, right? But
Yeah,
she was more angsty about it. And
right.
he was just kind of like, what is happening between, like, because he didn't have his point of reference with women to that point did not involve relationships.
Right.
So and he was drawn to Chloe from the very beginning, right? It was kind of like she caught his eye, and it wasn't like he was drooling over her. He was just drawn to her, and he didn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily know why. So it wasn't even a sexual drawn, but it was a pull to her. Then
Mm-hmm.
he sees her, step in and negotiate, and it's like, huh, more than meets the eye, right?
Right.
And I think that was, they both found that out about each other. More than meets the eye. But Dominic, with his family baggage, child of an addict,
Yeah.
and you've given us some great perspectives, from like a clinical perspective, in terms of how that then influences that child turned adult in relationships. And because he had nothing, right? I mean, his mother overdoses with him in the apartment.
Right.
And then he goes to live with, his aunt, and they have this very fractious, complicated relationship. So I just think he didn't know what was going. Neither one of them knew exactly what was happening between the two of them, and he did not have the language to communicate um, what he was feeling, and she didn't have the experience
Yeah.
to be able to categorize and also similarly, I think, communicate what she was feeling, and what she felt was going on between
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. And so, bumpy, but
them.
they
Hmm.
fall in love, and
Hmm.
then he makes the wrong person mad, and he decides to stop engaging with her, mainly to keep her safe.
Yeah.
And doesn't know that at that exact time she's finding out that she's pregnant.
Right.
Which, that period was hilarious, because they was like, when you gonna tell yourself the truth, sugar?
Right.
Okay, because you
Right.
keep saying that your clothes is shrinking, and you don't know why you're so hungry, and you
Right.
don't know why
Well, she
you're
was the virgin,
uncomfortable.
right? She was a
Right.
virgin. And we basically also, I think, get the impression that Chloe's like boyfriend experience prior to that point was not very extensive, right? Because you could have boyfriends and just not have slept with them.
Right.
It didn't seem like she had a ton of that, boyfriend girlfriend experience, period.
Yeah.
Um, so
Well, and I just found it funny, because once it got to be where you couldn't ignore it, then
right.
it was finally like, hey, girl, and then
Right.
she has to tell her grandfather. But her friend was just funny to me. Her friend was
Autumn.
like, Autumn was like, oh, uh-huh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You uncomfortable?
Yeah.
That's what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
oh, your clothes, this pair of pants shrunk too, did it? Okay.
Later in the discussion, I have my own bit of notes on the two villains in these stories, the villains of love, the villains against love, because I felt in Save Autumn was painted as the villain
Yeah, she
against
was.
their love, and then in the end game, Terry was the quote unquote
Yeah.
villain against their. There were other like actual villains, but the villains against their love. And would like to make the case for some grace for both of those when we get to it, because I think you know.
Yeah, I think that's in there. I'm feeling a pull to talk about like the social issues for more
Yes.
context,
Hmm.
and then maybe we can go through the questions.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So both of them bring some real significant social issues forward. Like you were saying,
Well,
him
wait.
being
It occurred to me because we're jumping in, but we
oh, we
didn't.
got
You
yeah. Can
didn't.
you do the summary for
Yeah, I'll do
okay.
the so at the end game. Obviously, is it's these are standalones, but they are connected. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
that's fair.
Right.
Yep.
And so, whereas Saving Sunflower focused on Dominic and Chloe, the end game focuses on Dominic's younger cousin, basically his brother Josiah, who is a standout quarterback. Um, also coming from humble circumstances similar to Dominic, although not as dire as Dominic's. And Josiah is the chosen one. He is the one that is going to get out in a different way, and take his not just his immediate family but also his street family with him as well. And so when we meet Josiah, when we see Josiah in the end game, because we will have already met him when he's a little bit younger in Saving Sunflower. He's graduating from high school, and the end game fast forwards. He's a sophomore, presumably at the University of Georgia, because it's set in Athens. Although I don't think she actually used the university name, which was wise of her.
Hmm.
And he is failing his classes, and in the strong, not strong implication, it is clear that there is a system set up to take care of the athletes to make sure that does not happen by hook or crook. But he intersects with a TA in his English class named Jade, and again, drawn to her. And that attraction, I think, in a contrast to Dominic and Chloe, is immediately sexual, but more than that. But he was very much sexually attracted to her from the very beginning. Um, and what we find out is that, still waters run deep, right? Because for all of the assumptions and stereotypes about, star athletes, big men on campus, we find out that Josiah is so, so much more than that. And so the end game is their love story, which has its own, hills and valleys. Jade is a single mother. She got pregnant while in school. Her daughter is now 2, and the father is at school with her and basically does nothing for
He
his
is a
child.
jackass. Oh, excuse me.
Complete deadbeat. And Jade and her mother are navigating, the life of Jade being this young single parent, still finishing school and also responsible for another human being. So just, that's kind of the backstory, a little bit of Josiah and Jade's story. But now we can, because I think in the context of that, kind of coming back to the social
Yeah.
issues, take it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, first we find out that he doesn't read at the level he should.
That's Josiah. Mm-hmm.
Josiah, yep, and his athleticism is his entree into
Mm-hmm.
um undergrad, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, it's clear he is not there to get an education.
Yep.
It is not anybody's number. I mean, it's he's thinking about it and he's, trying, but it's and she once she reads his writing, she understands what's going, spends time with him, she understands what's going on. But as hard as his coach was on him, it was not about him as a whole person.
Right.
It was just about what he could give the university and for free.
He's a commodity. Yeah.
Exactly.
He's a commodity.
And so that him kind of knowing that
Yeah.
and recognizing that who he was, what's coming to mind for me is that book from like the early 2000s, $40 million Slave,
Mm.
and some of the other commentary that there is on paid athletes.
Yep.
But then like when we get into the unpaid athletes,
Yep.
student athletes, and how much money they make for these organizations, on all levels, down to like literal jersey sales. So you
Yep.
can sell a jersey with my name on it and you're not gonna pay me.
Right.
And
Although
and
now with the NIL deals, it's
right,
a
right.
different story.
It's a
But
different story, yes.
yeah,
Um,
but it
so
took decades
oh
and students losing eligibility
yes,
and all other things to get to that point. Yeah.
yes, yes. In the movie Blue Chips and kind of,
Yep.
all of the other examples, before this stuff was to some degree straightened out. just this idea that these student athletes that were working the equivalent of 5 full-time jobs were
Mm-hmm.
to be compensated in a meal plan and a nice place to stay,
Yes.
and not what was due them comparable to what they were making the university and making the NCAA and all these other organizations.
Yes.
The other thing that came up was his um his his not reading. Like, it's one thing if he read on a 12th grade level. He was like in the 3rd grade.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
the idea that this Black boy got from the 3rd grade to the 4th to the 6th to the
Yep.
11th and never like encountered a person that would slow him down long enough to help him learn that invaluable skill in modern times.
Mm-hmm.
And getting into just how, like, it's two things happening. On the one hand, it's this idea that what Black boys go through in the American education system, and how they many times are immediately written off.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not written off, they are overdiagnosed and
Mm-hmm.
overprescribed. But all of it is in the way to basically dispense with them. How can
Yep.
we make you as small and as invisible as possible? Because your existence to something, to a large degree, is a threat.
Yep.
And, we can get into the school to prison pipeline and like all of those pieces, but it just brings to mind like how he had been failed so many times.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that I was going to bring up was, the loss of Kiana, and what that was like for him, and what that love was, and kind of how because one of the things I said to you is that he just wanted to be in love.
Yep.
He wanted the family so bad he could taste it.
Yep.
And, what he had with Kiana was chaotic, but it was also, home for him.
Yep.
And to meet Jade, and I don't know how, like, well, he talks a lot about like she does this like Kiana used to, or she makes me think of this or whatever. But I didn't get the sense that he wasn't trying to replace her, but he just recognized that sweet feeling.
Yes. And I also got the sense what he Jade believed in him.
Yeah, like
Different
Kiana
from
did. Yep.
right. She believed in him outside of his athletic abilities.
Yes.
And that just felt different. It wasn't that his boys didn't believe in him, or Dominic. They all believed in him too, but they were more so focused. Number one, like we talked about, men don't really get into the emotions of things.
Mm-hmm.
And the sense was that Kiana believed in him as a whole person.
Yeah.
And Jade, from the beginning, believed in him as a whole person and his ability to do it, right? Like she believed in his ability to complete the assignments. So it was like, I'm going to be here. I'm going to help you through it because you
Mm-hmm.
can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the one of the last social issues that I wanted to bring up for him is just like how we handle grief and loss, and how
Mm-hmm.
we can sometimes poo-poo the feelings of children.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for him to have had such a significant loss, in addition to all of the chaos and the neighborhood beef and like all of that shit that was going on, for
Yep.
them to be so young,
Yep.
and essentially what we do to children is like, you just a kid, you don't know what this is, you don't know what you're going through, go on and sit down somewhere, you know what I
Yep.
mean? When he really should have been in some therapy. He should have been getting some support. And I'm gonna lean toward therapy because that's my job, but he had community around him, but he could have probably benefited from some unique or specific attention just to what it is like to kind of live in a state of constant vigilance, to be doing young and reckless stuff, and then to lose so much at such a young age.
Joe carried, right, those mental and emotional burdens of his village, and he was
Yeah.
the person that people would seemingly dump their stuff on.
Yep.
Right, because he seemed like he could handle it, whereas Dominic was the different type of strong friend in that, I got you. Right,
Mm-hmm.
you need money, I'm gonna find a way to get the money. You need protection, I'm gonna make sure that you are protected. But I that's how I take care of you, right? That's how I'm
Right.
strong
And
for
don't
you.
ask me too many questions, just know I got it.
Exactly. And I am not going to be the one though that you can sit there and talk about how you are feeling, because I'm gonna tell you life is unfair.
Right.
Shit be fucked up, and you just got to do what you got to do.
Right.
Right. So they were different permutations to me of the quote unquote strong friend. Um, but and I thought the way she laid it out, you saw the toll that both
Mm-hmm.
versions take on being either, right? They're heavy burdens to carry, whether you're talking about keeping a roof over someone's head and their bills paid and them protected, or you're talking about being that safe space that people can go to and dump on. And
True.
that's what Joe was.
Yeah, it's true. Um, what about the social issues for saving sunflower? Which one stuck out for you?
So I mean, with Dominic, it was the criminal justice system, right? It was that for him, he did not perceive other opportunities. He was dabbling in the music. And look, for both Joe and Dominic, their talent, quote unquote, saves them,
Yeah.
right? Whereas if you read Mo and Dre's stories, they are the dudes that don't have the extraordinary talent that get plucked out of obscurity, right?
Yep.
So it's a good contrast. Although Joe tells us that Dre was an even more talented football player, but clearly Dre didn't believe that because Dre pushed Joe to go further, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with Dominic, it was not having the opportunities, the resources to do something different for the sake of making money, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it was like, his relationship with his aunt, I thought was also just very interesting because on the one hand, Diane, of course, she loved her nephew, but she resented how he would take care of them because she knew he was doing crime
Mm-hmm.
in order to get money to take care of them. And
Yep.
of course, but from Dominic's perspective, he's like, well, your jobs are not keeping the lights on, right? Like what you do to make money is not making sure that Joe has supplies for football camp and that he can pay his graduation fee.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm gonna do what I have to do because you are my family and this is how I take care of my family. And it's like she wanted to argue against that, but she wasn't presenting an alternative. Her
Right.
only alternative was God, right? And it was like,
Well, or be reminded of the fact that he was right.
well, yes, right, but it was
And
kind
so,
of like,
yeah.
but in this instance, God has not quote unquote swooped in and provided you with a better paying job, or him with a legal way to help contribute to keeping this shelter over them, and so on and so forth. So it just there are lots of Dominics, in prison all over this country,
Yep.
right? Talented young black men who you ask them, they're like, I did what I had to do. It wasn't about flashing jewelry. It wasn't about, blowing money in the clubs. It was about paying bills. Um, and what comes with that, and the
Mm-hmm.
risk that you take with that. And I thought, because it's easy to kind of like wag your finger and be like, well, you shouldn't because the consequences if you get caught. And it's like, yeah, but pointing to the quote unquote alternatives that are never as straightforward as people present them to be, right? Particularly when he was coming from a drug addiction background, um the trauma of his mother overdosing with him, and I think he stayed in the apartment with her for 2-3 days because he was afraid to call someone, afraid what was going to happen to him. Just it's like all of that, summer job and, Wendy's and all that all sounds good, right? It all sounds good. And it shouldn't be given the back of the hand, but I thought that Ray did a great job of presenting it, the that it's a lot more nuanced than that. And the decisions that people like Dominic make
Mm-hmm.
every day, right? Obviously Dominic is fictional, but also Dominic got lucky because, like I said, there's a whole lot of Dominics who you listen to them spitballs and you're like, oh my gosh, you could be, you could, you could sell millions of records, even though we don't even use that language, millions of streams, right? But like they're sitting in Rikers, right? They're in Fishkill there, and I'm just referencing some of the New York,
Okay.
Rahway, some of the more famous, Angola and Louisiana. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where they are, right? And that's where
Yeah.
they're going to be. That's
Jesus,
where they're going to be.
Angola. That is a anyway. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, right.
Ooh,
So, and the risk, because it's like on the one hand, while it was this love story that was developing and it wasn't romance, right? Kind of following the parameters again, because it was just a lot of ups and downs. You're like, what's gonna happen between these two? And they
right.
ain't even officially boyfriend and girlfriend. Like they don't even know how to talk to each other. And
Right.
because like he didn't say to her, I'm gonna stay away from you so I can keep you safe, right? He just
He
stayed away.
just dropped off the face of the
Right.
earth.
And that's what I mean with like not having the language, right? Like not having the words to be like, I'm staying away because I need to keep you safe. And of course, by that point, the train had left the station anyway. But now poor Chloe was left feeling abandoned, rejected, and pregnant and scared. And, you know, all of those things. It also made me think of like the savior complex,
Yeah.
right? And both Chloe and look, all four of them had it. It just displayed itself in slightly different ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when I think about it, it wasn't just both couples, they had savior complexes. The
Yes.
women had it and the men had it.
And this is gonna make me want to talk about the mamas before we get into the like, love, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they did, you're right, they did have savior complexes and a desire to, and we can talk about what that means, like what most clinicians think that means. But that was a very interesting theme for me, that they really were trying so hard. So about the moms, both of their mamas, Terry and Diane, presented some problems depending on the time in the day.
Yeah,
Terry
yeah.
more so. But did you get any twinges for how their moms were portrayed, or like did you feel anything was stereotypical about it, or how did any of that hit you?
What I felt was I I I found myself having a certain amount of empathy for Terry, um, only because, and I'll deal with Diane separately, um, because Terry was at least articulating. Number one, we knew that uh, from Terry's perspective, Jade was unfortunately repeating her mistake, right? Terry
Hmm.
got pregnant with Jade Young, wasn't a good match. Daddy was deadbeat, right? And so Terry, Jade is in college. She gets pregnant with Journey, and Brandon turns out to be a deadbeat. And it's like, God damn it. This is because that's not what you want for your child,
Yeah.
right? And then also keeping in mind that in fairness to Terry, Terry was obviously outside looking in. Terry was also getting bits and pieces. So she was not getting the picture that the reader was getting,
Hmm.
right? And oh, by the way, Jade, for a large portion of the book, Jade is not confident about what's happening between them,
Yeah.
right? And Terry is seeing that as well, right? Like Jade don't get her backbone about what's happening between her and Josiah until the end. So it was like I had to remind myself that as the reader, we were getting a lot more data
Yeah.
and information about about who Josiah was and what was happening between he and Jade. But from Terry's perspective, he's a sophomore in college,
Hmm.
20 years old, star quarterback, and her baby got a baby,
Yeah, she didn't trust him. He's
right?
very dangerous.
Yeah, and so it was like it wasn't even a personal thing against Josiah, but it was like based on the data that Terry felt like she had in front of her, she was just like, this is not. This does not. I worry that this is not going to go well. And then when Jade takes Journey with them to Atlanta, right when Mo gets shot, and she brings Journey with her, And then Journey starts calling Josiah daddy,
Mm-hmm.
and Jade freaks out and creates the distance, right? So it's kind of like, again, Terry was reacting to, and had warned Jade about that, like, yeah, be careful who you bring around your daughter, because if she
Mm-hmm.
gets attached, then things go awry. Now you brought her into it. So I say that to say I had a certain level of empathy for Terry, because I thought it was a little unfair to just be like, oh, Terry just being bitchy and she being a hater. And I was like, well, but Terry's getting bits and snippets,
Yeah.
and Jade wasn't, Jade was not like, I got this, right? Like, Jade was shaky for a long time. That's what Terry was seeing. So it
Mm-hmm.
also looked like Jade was way out of her depth and didn't know what the hell she was doing, which does not instill confidence in someone who is already concerned that their child is not heading down the right road, right? And then with Diane, and I also thought what I would say is that at least Terry was transparent with Jade about what her concerns were and why, right?
Mm.
Diane did a lot of, we ain't gonna talk about it, right? Like, based on what Josiah shares or what he knows about his father, like, Diane just did a lot of, we ain't talking about it, which is not helpful either, right? And she kind of like wrapped herself in, well, I'm the mama and I decide what we will discuss and what we won't discuss, and I've decided there are whole topics that we're just not going to discuss, including your father.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um okay. Right? Or the man who I married, who was a surrogate father or father figure for a time period and then disappeared. We're not going to talk about him either.
Right.
And would just get, from Joe's perspective, she wasn't willing to like own her shit, which it's like you could see there was, they had deep affection for Diane, but like they were now both wise enough, quote unquote, in life to understand that the way that Diane handled things was not okay either, right? Like, so Diane's moral high ground, as the authority figure and the parent in the house, it it no longer had credibility, because both Dominic and Joe were like, but this is not, like, you need to stand on your shit then, right? Like, what it was Dominic constantly telling Josiah, you did, like, you do something, you need to stand on your shit 10 toes down. Like, it is what it is, and you got to take accountability for that. And I think Joe felt like with Diane, it's like, okay, so what's the story about my father? Like,
Yeah.
how do we just not talk about him? Just nothing. And I do think that she shared in Saving Sunflower, she shared a little bit more with Chloe, but clearly from Josiah's perspective, it sounded like she shared more with Claudette about Blue than she ever shared with her own son about his father.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's not how it should go.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of felt like Terry, I almost had a little bit more like, well, I think it's a little bit more gray than just Terry is hating on it, like, because I had to look at what the evidence that Terry had before her, not the evidence that the reader had before them. The reader got so much more than what Terry got, and that gave me just a little bit more empathy towards her. Whereas Diane, I was kind of like, Diane, I mean, Auntie, you just gonna be who you gonna be. You're not changing, and it is what it is. But you've also not taken accountability for your stuff. So it's like, I don't love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I think their moms, both for Dominic and for um, Dominic and Joe, well, Joe, his aunt, and Dominic's and Joe's mom, and for Jade's mom, they were portrayed as, so y'all know I be on TikTok all the time. And one of the things that floats around my algorithm is folks going no contact with their
Mm,
parents, and
mm-hmm,
also folks who are starting to realize that sometimes the myth around the label of mother or father can keep you from really seeing who your adult caregiver is.
mm,
And
mm,
so if you like, we all have a shared understanding of what mothers and fathers are supposed to do, how they're
mm-hmm,
supposed to be,
mm-hmm,
but these are um in some cases impossible to accomplish and unrealistic.
mm-hmm,
But also, in the ways that they are realistic, they assume that the person has some emotional and social skills that
Yeah.
not every person that gets pregnant or a person that gets somebody pregnant is going to automatically have.
Right.
And so I think on TikTok, like it's a lot of folks that are like, looking back, should I call it abuse?
Mm,
Looking back, should I say that my mom or my dad wasn't a good parent, or my grandmother or whoever did the raising?
hmm.
When and I've seen a lot of negotiations and conversations around the phrase they did the best they could with what they had.
Yes. Yes.
And like Terry and Diane kind of felt like, to me, they would be a part of that conversation, like
Yeah.
subjects of that conversation, because you know they both did their best, I think.
Yes. Yes.
But what do you do when your parents' best isn't good enough,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're measuring them against the Cliff and Claire Huxtable archetype,
Yeah.
or whatever your image of parenthood is? And there are a lot of parents on TikTok that are bristling um, and struggling with being compared to today's standards
Hmm.
when this was yesterday's behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I struggle with myself on how to frame those two, because I didn't 100% see them as bad people. I
Yeah.
saw them
Yeah.
as hard people.
Yeah, agreed. They were both hard, but they were painted as, right. Certainly Terry and Autumn were painted as the haters of
Yeah.
the love, right? Maybe well intentioned, but also maybe a thread of jealousy, haters, right? And
Right.
and I just kind of felt like, but they're not privy, right? There's a certain life experience that paralleled what they see happening to someone they care about. And you can't forget your own life experience, right? You
Yes.
understand that there can always be exceptions to the rule, but the rule exists because more often than not, that's how it plays out, right?
Yes. Yes.
So getting upset with people for not viewing you as the exception is like, well,
Right.
yeah,
And I also just thought too, like, were they to ever be like consistently confronted with how their well-intentioned hardness did little damage? You know what I'm saying? Like,
hmm,
how many parents actually want to hear that? And so, but just because that's floating around my algorithm, it really made me think about, like, in the book, it's very neat and clean to wrap it up,
yeah,
and everybody understands, and and you just accept the person as they are, but you don't get to see, unless the author chooses to show you, the lasting damage,
yeah,
or like if relationships will continue to crumble. But the mamas really stuck out, to me,
yeah.
for sure. Did you want to do anything else with social issues before we get to the questions?
Not that anything's jumping out right now. It may come out as we discuss more.
Okay, let's start with Saving Sunflower. What did you love?
I mean, I love the overall story, even though it was tense and fractious, and you're like, oh, the angst, right? Because
Mhm.
these two young people, they're so young. Oh my
So yeah.
God, 18 and 20.
Hmm.
Um,
Zero
and
age.
yes, right. And clearly, right, Dominic's love language was acts of service. And gosh, to be that much of a man at 20, right? And you
Yeah.
get the impression that he had been that way since he was a teenager,
Hmm.
and how exhausting that has to be. I loved them both, but like my heart, while I was afraid for Chloe, right, my heart cried for Dominic
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
all that he had been through, and still standing, right, and raised Josiah in terms of showing him what a man is, right. So I just loved this storyline of this young man who got it out the dirt and meets this girl, and it wasn't, there wasn't where he's doing her wrong before they get it right. It's like he was he was arguably you could say, well, because he not telling her things, but he was always focused on how to take care of her, how to do right by her, how
Mhm.
to do right
Mhm.
for her. He just didn't know how to communicate it
Right.
in a way that she understood what was being done, and how he felt and so on and so forth. But I loved watching their relationship unfold.
Yeah.
um like I said, as much as it, kind of like took my heart through the ringer, I was like, oh, this is so much. It hurts me. It's too much. Um, yeah, yeah. Those, I realize I'm not like pointing to it's just like the overall story because it was quite an experience. It was
It
quite an
was.
experience.
And I think that's what snuck up on me. So, um, I when I came after I finished reading and then a couple days passed and they snuck up on me and I couldn't stop thinking about them. It was because I wanted to see I wanted to see them older with different problems.
Hmm.
Like I wasn't ready to let them go,
Hmm.
but also like when he gets out of jail, he's excited to see her. He gets home and he sees that she has made his room her room,
Hmm.
and that life continued without him, with
Hmm.
even before she was speaking to him again, they were speaking to each other again. She had sort of connected back with the family,
Hmm.
and I think I just wanted, and then we find out that his streams are doing well and he's making money, and like things are improving, they're able to like buy a house. um and it's so funny because then by the time you get to the end game, she done crashed one Range Rover. They think she get ready to
Yes.
crash the next one.
Yes. Yes.
But there was so much, like you're saying, teenage angst, and it was such a fraught story, and my heart went out to them for being so young and having to deal with so much, um, that I almost wanted them to have a romantic comedy, or like you know what I mean? I wanted to see them 5 years later doing very well and very much in love and having zero problems, and him
Mm.
being the new, whoever he gonna be, whatever
Hmm.
name he gonna go by. And so I was aching to see them doing okay. And she
Hmm.
left us with a sufficient happily ever after. Like we knew they were gonna be all right, even though some things perked up in the end game.
Yep.
But I really wanted to see them in a typical everything is fine, nothing is ever wrong romance, because they had been, and even though they hadn't necessarily been through the ringer with each other, there was some tumult. They
Yes.
just came to each other with so much baggage that I said, my poor babies.
Yes. 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 Yes.
When y'all gonna be happy and free?
Yeah.
I felt about them the way I felt about Tori and Ashton.
Mm.
Like I
Mm.
just want by the because for Tori and Ashton, by the time we get to book 3, I want 500 pages of love. And
Mhm.
for them, that's what I want. I want her to
Mhm.
write 500 pages of them being rich and famous and in love and with 19 children and perfect and everybody's happy and nobody dies and we're all doing living our best life. I just wanted sunshine for them.
Yeah, well. Yeah, well.
Yeah, well.
You know what I would say though, kind of going back to um Diane a little bit, is that her relationship with Chloe
Yeah.
was very
Yeah.
interesting, right? And that was the most tenderness. And we get flashes of once Evie is here, right, that she now has a quote unquote grandchild, or
Hmm.
a great niece. But um you see those flashes, but it is reminiscent of, I think, some of those strong older women in our families where you only got the flashes of the tender when they're dealing with babies, or
Yeah. Yeah.
in very specific moments, right?
Hmm.
But for the most part they were known as the strong, hard, pillar of strength, um members of the family. But her relationship with Chloe, because Chloe had never had, right, a mother figure, and so Diane welcoming her into the house, and it goes from just her cooking with Diane to then when she basically moves into his room, right? Chloe really needed that, and clearly Diane
Hmm.
saw that, and saw look, this young woman's going to be part of our family. But I think even if she had not been pregnant, right? Because Diane started building that relationship with her from the very, very beginning before Chloe got pregnant.
Yeah.
Um, so it was like it wasn't enough, but it was like the one flash of the tenderness, right? The potential soft and pink of someone like a Diane,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of show that she had the ability to be that way, but maybe she felt because she was raising boys, black boys specifically, right? It wasn't time to be, it was only time for praying and yelling.
Right.
Ain't no time.
Yeah.
It's not like she was overly affectionate to Chloe, but it's like she gave Chloe what she needed just in terms of that support, um, when she needed it. So I thought about that again, that how that relationship evolves.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, so let's move to, let me see, what did I love? Yes, I wanted more of them, and I wanted them to have different problems. Um, but I did love how sweet they were when they were with each other, and how just how once they once they know to expect each other, because I think there's a period where she doesn't know if he's gonna show up or not, and he doesn't know if he's gonna go get her or not. So
Mm-hmm.
like in the
Mm-hmm.
early days, you can feel the hesitancy around like, what is this and should this happen?
Mm-hmm.
But once they grow to accept each other as established parts of their lives, I love every moment where they're expecting, like once they settle in and they expect to see each other and they're looking forward to seeing each other, like they hit a rhythm
Yeah.
that is just really, really sweet. And that also made the hard parts easier, because I think I was just rooting for him as like the little boy that had to grow up too fast from the very
Yes.
beginning,
Yes.
and him finding her, and she didn't even know it's what she was doing, but becoming a safe place for him. And y'all know how I feel about women being a tool of men's development, but that didn't happen here. Like she didn't change him as much as she allowed him to feel good with her. Like she just became
Yes.
a place where he could be happy. And yes, he was still cryptic and there was still a lot he didn't tell her, some of it under the guise of keeping her safe. The other part is just because he wasn't used to sharing his life with a person. But when he was with her, especially when she draw the little sunflower on his neck, and they
Yeah.
just had moments that you could tell, and she writes it because she talks about his reaction to her, that it was just, he got to experience joy
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
result of her being in his life. And I
Yeah.
loved that. I loved every little moment that looked like that.
Yeah. One of the things that continued to resonate with me, one of the smaller moments I would say continue to resonate with me, was his ongoing conversation. What was his cellmate's name? It escapes me right now. But that gentleman basically being like, you don't want to be me
Yeah.
because now my wife is leaving me.
Yes. Oh, what was his
After
name? No, Carlos
um
is the other boy roommate. Let me look it up.
um
But
that
his, yeah,
after
yeah,
25 years and 4 or 5 kids and in and out of jail, and just kind of took me back to there's so many Dominics,
yeah.
right, that will never be outside free again
Mm-hmm.
because of decisions. And having that older gentleman really just reach Dominic, because he wasn't
Polo.
Polo.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say Doc. I was like, why do I want to say Doc? Polo. But Polo being able to reach him, right, and say, if you don't want to lose her, if you're not trying to give her away, so to speak, then you better hold on and not just get your shit together, but like be there for her.
Yeah.
Right. And it was clear that he needed to hear that, because he was still in the vein of, the best thing I can do for her is let her go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to tell her I'm letting her go. I'm just going to have nothing to do with her.
Right.
Tell her we just can't be together. And that's just it. Um, because you just wonder, would he have, and to Dominic's credit, he was not some I know it all, don't tell me nothing. But I don't know that he would have been as open to hearing that kind of feedback had he not been in jail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Had he not been sharing a cell with someone who had 20, 25 years on him and was like, young buck, I've been doing this for 2+ decades. Like,
Right.
where it hit at the right time. In the right way. And he fully received it and was like, I need to have contact with her, because not having contact with her is not helping either one of us.
Mm-hmm.
So not only I'm going to get my shit together, but I'm also going to get my shit together as it pertains to her.
Yeah. And
But you
even
see in the end game, they're still figuring that out, right? It's
yes.
not as if he has completely figured that out. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Because yeah.
I was just gonna say, so I appreciated that when it's a year, almost 2 years later, that they are together, they are happy, they are committed to each other, they are reasonably happy. Of course, in the course of the end game, right, someone shoots at the car that they're in, and that's
Right.
when Mo is injured and whatnot. So of course they have this incredibly traumatic, scary, terrifying event.
Mm-hmm.
um but even before that, right, they were still figuring each other out, because all of this happens between them very, very quickly, you know, very, very quickly. Within a matter of months, they start, they go from manager and talent friend, then they get physical. It just, like, that happened over the course of her freshman year of college. Like, was it her freshman year or was it sophomore year?
So I want to
um
say soft.
it might have been her sophomore year. So it happened, and she was pregnant by the spring semester. So it's not like they had 2, 3 years under their belt before all of that happened,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. And they do, um, like you're saying, end up with hurdles because it's only a couple months have passed. Like you're saying, a month or a year has passed. You're talking about the span of them going from strangers to lovers, but even after the end of the book,
Mm-hmm.
it's not that much time before Josiah in school.
Right.
Like he in college, and they're talking about him going to college at the, in Saving Sunflower, but it
Exactly.
stands to reason that they would be having some relationship growing pains, because they're still just babies.
And have a baby.
Right, right.
So
Which yeah, that's a notion in and of itself. I deal with young parents sometimes, and boy, is that another game. Um,
yeah, God bless
it's
them.
another game
Because
altogether.
parent period is, right, its own, like,
Heck
the
yeah.
the awesome, and I don't mean like, oh wow, I mean like the
Full of all
huge,
huge
exactly,
mammoth. Yeah.
responsibility for this other human being,
Yep.
that is completely reliant on you. And whew,
It's
yeah,
a lot. That's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay. So what did you love from the end game?
Joe, loved his
He's a sweetheart.
vulnerability. I think
Yeah.
it was such a sweet change. If reading it after, um being exposed to Dominic and his brand of love and affection and caring. And then, because we were introduced to Josiah in Saving Sunflower, but certainly not in a romantic context, right?
Right.
And now I think about that he would have been carrying Kiana on his heart when we meet him. And that, of course, because he wasn't the star of Saving Sunflower, we would have never known that. But think about it, he was being Chloe's emotional supports person
Mm-hmm.
in Saving Sunflower,
Mm-hmm.
right? When Autumn just, until Autumn kind of comes back around and is like, I'm here for you, she was relying on Josiah
Right.
while Dominic was in jail. But he was just such a sweetheart.
Definitely.
There were no games. Like, Josiah was, I say what I mean what I say. And Dominic was too, but Josiah was just, he had the language,
Yep.
right? So from the very beginning, he was wearing his vulnerability to Jade on his sleeve with her. It's just
Yeah.
she didn't know how to recognize that that was genuine because she had been hurt and traumatized, and she didn't know him, but she knew that he was, big man on campus and all of those things, right?
Well,
But
then
none
this
of
is her second popular guy.
right,
And so once
right.
burned, twice shy.
Exactly, exactly. But like Josiah was very much like, I want you. I just want to make you happy. I just want to
Yeah.
make you happy. And that was just so sweet and
Mm-hmm.
refreshing. Um and I just like, my heart ached for him in a different way, right? Because I just said, like, my heart cried for Dominic, and all that he had gone through. And I think because Joe, when we meet him and we don't know all that he has gone through, right? You're kind of like, oh yeah, no, Josiah, he's fine. And then you start, and you're like, oh, you poor baby. Oh my
Yeah.
God. God, your poor baby just wants to be loved. The way that he immediately gravitated towards Journey,
Yes.
that
Yes.
relationship, right? Like, just, and so I understood. And I don't think you need to be a single mother with a deadbeat baby daddy to understand why Jade could not, like, it was as she saw what was happening between Josiah and Journey,
Mm-hmm.
on the one hand thinking to herself, I need to be very careful because I don't know where this is going, and this is my child and I can't have her getting attached. But on the other hand, watching it unfold and just
Yeah.
being like, look at how this man is loving on my daughter,
Yep.
how this man is fathering, he is daddying.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Like it was a dream she was terrified to
yes.
believe could come true.
Yes. So it's like, of course she was drawn to that. Of course she leaned into that.
Yep.
And it was almost impossible for her to, like, proactively pull them apart,
Yep.
until she got freaked out by Journey calling him daddy, right? Like, it
Yep.
just, because it was so, from the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
he was drawn to Journey.
Yeah. I loved how sweet he was too. And like you said,
Yes.
he was very straightforward. His heart was on his sleeve. He was not he just made no bones about the fact that that's what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't afraid and he didn't feel the need to like posture. Um and I found myself like I was frustrated with her, but I understood.
Yeah.
Right. So you know how like when you're the reader and you know that there's gonna be an HEA or what is the other one, Happy for Now.
Mm-hmm.
You want you telling the hesitant person, come on, girl,
Right. Get yourself together. What's wrong with you?
jump into the boy arms. But she doesn't have all the information we have. She don't know it's gonna be a happily ever after. All
Yeah.
she knows is that this is her second popular guy, and we'll see.
Yeah.
And then in the early days, while he was consistent in trying to get her attention, he was late, or
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't long because we had the car issue, and then everything kind of spirals from there in terms of them falling into each other. But I understood her. Is reticence a good word?
Yes. Yes.
um but I also was like, girl, get married to him today.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He the one, girl, he the one.
Right. And also the reality is that, you know, when she reflects back on Brandon, she realizes that she ignored several red flags. But there's plenty of women who share stories about how it was too good to be true.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It was too good to be true. And so you can also understand why she was kind of like, this is feeling and looking too good to be true.
yeah, yeah. And because I don't know, I think especially everything that she had been through and kind of her mom
Mm-hmm.
in her ear and some of the other it just makes perfect sense that she wouldn't be running headfirst into this.
Yes.
Her mom Terry was always giving her the blues every time she took 3 steps. And this guy is coming. He looks like he isn't the one, and you gonna turn around and try to tell me he is the one
Right.
at
Right.
our young age.
Right.
So all of that added up. And I'm glad that they got there. The other thing I love was a bittersweet moment was his conversation with Kiana
Oh,
at the
it just,
gravesite. I was like, oh Jesus.
that, and actually for me it was both the conversation with Kiana and the conversation with Terrell right after,
Yeah, buddy.
both those two coupled together, actually, I don't know that it choked me up the first time I read it, but this second time, and I have a hypothesis about that. My cycle might be coming. Uh, just now it's like TMI, right?
Right.
But
No, I
like
understand.
it just
Fries
struck
your brain.
me, right, where I was just, because he had been talking to Kiana to a certain extent throughout the book, right? Or having little snippets or hearing her voice in his head. Um, and when he goes and to Terrell's gravesite and apologize, and now you realize, like, when you're putting two and two together, you're realizing, God damn it, they were friends and things went horribly wrong, right? Because he told us that Terrell was the friend, and then Terrell moved a couple of blocks over and he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
a friend anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's not until I felt like that conversation that you put the two and two together and you're like, oh no,
Yes.
oh no, oh
Yes.
damn, like
Yes.
damn, and just imagine carrying that on your heart,
Yep.
right? Like, and Dominic saying, look, you got to stand on that, you did what you did, and Diane being like, we just gonna keep praying it it doesn't come back on you. And then the guilt,
Yep.
the additional guilt that Dre took the charge
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so
Yes.
that his career, his football career could you know continue and be the one that lifts them out, lifts them
Yes.
up, which
Yes.
it does. um so it was just all of that, right? But yeah, because when he first starts talking about Kiana, you're kind of like, okay. I was like, huh, okay, so clearly Kiana's not around anymore. And I was like, is she dead, or did
Right.
they just break, she moved away? And as you get deeper, you're like, okay, she's clearly dead.
Mm-hmm.
Even before he tells us, because you're just kind of like, the way he's referencing her, you're like, she's clearly dead.
Right.
um and that's just heartbreaking, right?
Oh
It's just
yeah.
heartbreaking.
They
you
were
know
babies.
yes, 16.
Mm-hmm.
16. And when he says, I'm starting to forget what her voice sounds like, and that
Yes.
he had already forgotten what Terrell's voice sounded like. I just, it was just those touches where I was like, damn you, Ray, damn you. Why are you doing this to me with this brilliant writing?
it was tough. There was a lot to tangle with for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And we didn't touch on this as social issues, but definitely like proximity crime and community violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what are the assumptions that we make about Black people based on that, even if you Black? And the narratives about like who we are as a people. All of that came for me as I was reading what actually happened. Um, and it just made his subsequent success so much more painful
Yeah.
once you know how and why, and all the pieces that are associated with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I shared this with you offline, but Ray is a social worker.
Oh,
So
okay. I
so
don't think I remembered that.
yeah, it's like knowing that you're kind of
Yeah,
like,
that puts a lot of
yeah,
things in perspective.
you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right? Yeah, she's a social worker. Um,
Yeah, I
so
may read some more stuff to see if that comes through, because I have been toying with the idea of writing more to my job in terms of like bringing in more complicated characters and experiences. So
mhm.
I'm interested to hear. Will she be at? Is she will she be at Behind the Pen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll get to harass her. I'm interested to hear like how much does she bring to her writing, and what are her choices around that.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, she has a her newest project is dropping tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a completely, so Sunflower series is done. This is a new story, standalone, and it drops tomorrow.
Oh wait, it's in the same series.
No, it's not. It's not.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
saying
oh,
she's concluded the Sunflower series. This is a completely different,
got it,
unrelated story.
got it, got it,
Yeah,
got it, got it. Okay.
it's dropping tomorrow. But yeah, that's why I mean it's like the how she weaved in the social commentary, um where it's just there, right? It's there, they're living it, so there's no avoiding it. And I wouldn't say it doesn't overtake the story, but it is very much just in your face, right? Like this is what
Hmm.
they're living. um but I thought she did a masterful job of still giving us these two love stories where you're like, oh yes, yes, and not necessarily so depressed about the state of things that you're like, I can't even enjoy this love story because
Yes,
I'm so
yes.
upset.
Right,
Oh no,
right,
free
definitely.
Polo. I like, you know, free Trey.
What
Because
did
that
you
was his
hate and
own.
who? Oh, go ahead.
That was his own, right? His commitment to Dre and
Yeah,
taking care of. And 30 is about Dre. Dre comes home.
interesting.
And so 30 is about Dre getting himself together in life after being in prison for, several years.
Hmm.
And
So it's a time jump?
there is a bit of a time jump. It's not a
Okay.
huge time jump from Endgame, but it is. Josiah's playing professional football now. So yes, it's been just maybe 2 years. Maybe that's what the time frame is. Because Bunny happens in between in the end game and 30, and Bunny is Mo's story.
Okay.
Um, but having to adjust after being in prison for almost 10 years or whatever it is. And finding his footing, and he and one of Jade's friends, actually Tosh, who we meet in the end game. um 30 is their love story.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What did you hate and who needed to be stabbed?
Oh, what did I hate? I mean, I hated that these for Saving Sunflower, I hated the context,
Yeah.
right? So and for Chloe, it was just kind of like, because of course that's not what your grandfather sent you to college for, and it was. Like, oh, Chloe.
Right.
Um, so like I said, I worried for Chloe while my heart cried for Dominic, right? Of course, the dude that threatened him, and how that whole thing played out, right? Because it goes so horribly wrong because Dominic gets drunk, gets high, grabs his gun, right, and flies off the handle. So I hated though, because he was just like, oh, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Oh my goodness, you're
Right.
so close, you're so close. And because this was fiction, Ray was able to make it work out, right? But going
Hmm.
back to my point, there's tons of Dominics that are sitting in prisons all over this country, for whom it was one bad decision too many. And it is what it is. And then, with the end game, of course, hated the system, the setup of what Joe was working with, right, with the collegiate athletics, knowing that was not that far from the truth, right? Like, we know that, fiction or not, that was definitely pulled from the truth. And the fact that Jade was the only one that cared, right? His family cared for him, yes, but like, they clearly weren't keyed into the fact that the reading, for example, was as bad as it was, you know, and it's also like, uh, I thought to myself, if not Jade, like, who was Joe's emotional support person, right? So just, on the one hand, I was glad that he had Jade, but I hated, kind of going to your question, hated that it seemed like up to this point he didn't have an emotional support person, so to speak, right? He
Hmm.
didn't have his safe space. He had protection, he had covering in a different way because Dominic was always going to have his back. Um, but he didn't have someone that he could, like, really be fully vulnerable with, right?
Yeah.
And even if that had been Dre before he went to Dre before he went to jail, there was no way he was going to do that when Dre was on the inside.
Hmm.
Because it's like, I'm not gonna sit on the phone with you and complain about my feelings when you're missing out on your daughter growing up
Yeah.
because you took the charge for me, you
Right.
know. Um,
That
obviously when we get to the stab list, I'll get more specific about like Brandon and stuff, but it was those things that you're just like, oh, that those things exist in real life were the things that I hated, right? That these characters were living in, their circumstances, the context of these stories. That was what I hated, which is, I think different from other stories where like I'm pointing to like specific people, specific instances. Like I overall just hate. I was like, oh, it just makes me so sad.
well, and I think what's coming to me is that there were just so many trade-offs.
Yeah,
In both stories, I think, which is why definitely for me for Saving Sunflower, um, it wasn't until the end that they got more than they lost.
yeah,
Like it was always either like two steps forward, one step back, or
yeah,
trading $5 for 450, and they were making it and it was working. But I think that's one thing that really is sticking out to me as we're talking about it, is that the bittersweet nature of it is that for every moment, every sweet moment you get with them, it is the realization of why the sweet moment is so sweet.
yeah,
It is because of all the loss and because of the societal issues and the burdens of being in the situations that each of them were in both books. And by the end, and which means now behind the pen, I'm gonna have to require her to write some books in the future, but about these people, because we never. And you said that he's playing professional ball in one of the other books, which is great, but like they. It's always a complicated piece.
yeah,
Like they didn't get, how you can, and maybe this could be just her style, but I'm thinking of other authors where some books are complicated and other books it's just hard eyes the whole time, you just want to
yeah.
vomit, they so sweet. These babies, they didn't get that. No, 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 no.
No.
They were struggling a little bit.
Yes. Yes. And it's, it was like this was despite Joe, being consistent and
Yeah.
being there for her and doing what he says and saying what he means and meaning what he says. Like it was just all of that, right? It was
Yep.
like it wasn't even about him being flaky or flighty or this or that. And in fairness to Jade, it wasn't like she wasn't flaky. She was just being a 22-year-old mother of a 2-year-old
Right.
in
Right, whose mother
college,
was giving her the blues.
whose mother was giving her the blues, but also who was acknowledging for herself that she didn't trust her judgment anymore. She had been burned, and there were permanent consequences to that. And here is this man younger than her saying the right things, doing the right things, but can I trust him? Can I even
Mm-hmm.
trust myself? Like it was just all of that, right? It was all of this. They weren't running from, someone shooting at them or anything like that. It
Mm-hmm.
was, but the reminder that like that mental and emotional safety is as important as the physical safety,
Absolutely.
Intense, yes, intense,
Yeah,
yeah.
I would agree. Um, what about who needed to be stabbed?
Well, let's see. Uh Homegirl and I forget her. So let's go back to Saving Sunflower.
Yes.
Homegirl and I forget her name. The chick who was helped them set up the dude, right?
Oh,
Because she was also the one that then was
oh, the
getting catty.
stripper.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, I
and
didn't love that.
obviously the shooter
Yeah.
dude. Um, and like I said, with Autumn, I had a certain level of empathy, so I didn't even when Autumn was getting irritating, I was like, Autumn was coming from her own experience where she had been in love with a street dude and he was murdered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like at a party, and she's watching Chloe, who is as green can be,
Mm-hmm.
and going down this same path and seemingly, banking on being the exception to the rule. And
Right.
Autumn knowing, like I said, the rule exists for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I didn't want to stab her. And then in saving, um, I mean, not saving, the end game, obviously Brandon, top of the list. Top of the
Fuck him.
list. Please stab him. Um, Like,
multiple
oh
times.
my God, right? What I didn't understand was I was like, why is this nigga not on child support? At least something. Like, you gonna give me something.
Yeah,
Your mama's gonna pay it because you still in school. Nigga, somebody's going to pay something
for
because
sure.
I didn't make this baby on my own.
For sure.
But he was just the
Yeah,
worst,
deep down.
right? Um, chick who because she's a problem, the chick who Jade gets into the scuffle with, I wouldn't say stab her, but it was just that was just one more um unfortunate incident where she thought that Josiah had kind of created the perfect storm where this chick felt a certain level of ownership over him or possessiveness over him, such that she attacked, she ran up on Jade. She didn't attack you because I think Jade swings first, right? At the party. And Jade is like, this is taking me out of character. Like,
Yeah,
I don't even want to be in this space anymore. And not I've seen you with her. So it's not like she's pulling that out of the air and all of that, right? I
yep.
wouldn't say stab her, but I did like she deserved the beat down that she got.
I agree. I
So
think to me, everybody but the people in the couple need to be stabbed. Because it just seemed like, there were so many borderline relationships. And again, with the compromises, like, the mamas were there for them, but they were also real, real hard on them. The
yes.
friends were present, but they also had their own shit. And so they sometimes were distractions, or they brought their fears to the table and kind of were undermining the relationship.
Yeah.
But for Dominic and music and kind of what it meant to be attached to that life, and Joe and sports, like, even in that those it's both of those industries, it's one in a million for you to be who you
Right.
ultimately want to be. And there are so many sharks along the way.
Yeah.
And so you believe that you're talented and you're hoping for the best, but you also, again, can I trust this person? Can I trust myself? You know
Right.
what I mean? And so they really, really were navigating impossible situations for their age. And it made me look back to my first and second year in college. And let me tell you something. I could not be living this life. I just felt
Yeah.
so, I mean, because that time of my life was like, it was the best of times.
Yeah.
And I was footloose and fancy free. Now,
Yeah.
out within my little lower class bubble, like, we wasn't rich, but
Right.
I got to go to school, and I met my friends, and we did the dorm stuff in the booty wall at Howard, and in front of the freshman dorm, when you sit out there on the wall, it's called the booty wall. um
Oh,
and
okay. Lovely.
and going to ever getting in somebody's little raggedy car and going to A&T's homecoming, and getting in somebody's raggedy car and going to New York, and just doing dumb stuff and being silly, and like, all of that stuff was so fun. That's another thing that I noticed, that in their experience it wasn't like that. And I knew people at Howard that was like, no baby, this is work.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
here on a mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I definitely knew parents that were at Howard. Usually they
Yeah.
were local. Like, some folks left their kids at home. Some folks brought their kids with them. And
Yeah.
so I saw that, but I did not live that. And
Right.
reading it kind of put me much more into the mind of a person who is not getting the fun, footloose, fancy free college or late adolescent experience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was stressful, right? It was stressful
Yes.
because, and look, when we meet Jade is a parent. So okay. But when we meet Chloe is not yet, right? So it's like the world is about to be her oyster,
Yep.
right? She got her little job at the Waffle House. She, does her little paper thing on the side, keep money in her pocket, for Uber money and
Mm-hmm.
grocery money and whatnot. And now she is tangled in this like intense ro- relationship, but not an official relationship. And then when she turns up pregnant, it was just like, oh God, this is not like I felt like I got, poor George's, granddaddy George's heartbreak, because it's like, my God, this is not like we got you to college, right? You wanted to go away and you went away, and really freshman year we getting pregnant? Really?
Right.
A street thug. Lord have mercy.
Right.
Right?
And
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
because I think it also speaks to the dreams that your caregivers have for you,
Yes.
and how devastated they are personally when
Yes.
it don't go how they wanted it to go.
Yes.
And so I can see, and then we don't know what Terry and what Terry and Diane gave up,
Right. Right.
to do what, to even do get their kids to school.
Right.
And we also don't know what the same with her dad. I mean, George, that was right, her grandfather,
Yes. Yes.
who having a daughter, because it was his daughter, or
No, it was his
was it,
son.
it was his
It was
son,
his son.
and his
Mm-hmm.
son was killed, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
then so she lost her dad, and then her
Yep.
mama walked away.
Yep. Well, the
But
mama
he,
walked away first.
yes,
Yeah.
and but he didn't plan to live out his retirement.
Taking care of his granddaughter. Right.
Take care of his grandbaby. And so there really was just so much that,
And I think to that point, right, Terry also, right, was not planning on being a grandparent,
yeah,
because her college age daughter got pregnant in college. And now, yeah, I mean, Terry was supporting both of them because Jay, the TA, is not like a TA makes enough to take care of
at all.
themselves and a child. Um, so yeah, those disappointments, and because like you get them to college, you're like, yes, okay, now go make good decisions.
Right, right. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they doesn't.
Right.
And being parents who know that your child is making their life hard and you can't do nothing about it.
Right.
It's like,
Yes.
Jesus
Yes.
Christ, girl.
Yes.
You know what
Yes.
I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Because in the real world, more often than not, Terry was right.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
just the sad reality. In the real world, more often than not, Terry is right.
yes,
You know,
yes,
in the real world, more often than not, George and Autumn are right.
yes. And that, I think, to the point that you were making, that's why the same as you, I couldn't completely hate them, because outside the book, they not wrong, like you're
Right.
saying.
Right. Right.
Mm-mm.
And coming to the book with a certain amount of life experience under your belt, you're just like, oh, you poor foolish deluded child.
Mm-hmm.
If you only knew what awaits you.
Right,
you
right.
know so money, I thought the other thing that I thought I was glad to see was that Ray, kind of that familiar of that money doesn't solve everything, like not having money has its problems. Having money
Yes,
um presents its own set of problems, and it doesn't solve all of the problems that are present when you don't have money, right?
right.
So that for obviously when we meet them in Saving Sunflower, the lack of money is a huge issue for Dominic, for Joe, and Dominic does whatever he has to do to make sure that Joe has what he needs and so on and so forth. But then by the time we get to Endgame, Dominic is doing so well financially. He done bought Diana a condo.
Mm-hmm.
Joe has everything he needs, and more. Joe, Chloe and Nick are in the suburbs somewhere. Like you said, they bought themselves a glorious house, driving luxury cars. That doesn't take care of the other stuff, right? The
Right.
inside stuff, right? The mental, emotional stuff that you still have to deal with. So, no, you're no longer stressing about not having money, but you are still stressing about other things.
Right.
Um, and I thought she presented that in a way where it was like, oh, poor little rich kids. It wasn't like that. It was just very realistic that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no. The material, financial things are completely squared away. But he could not change, Joe could not change the fact that his best friend was supposed to serve the rest of his life in prison for a
Yeah.
murder that Josiah committed.
Yeah.
Dominic Money could not change the fact that them shooting at that car resulted in Mo being damn near killed.
Mm-hmm.
Mo is jacked up,
Yeah.
and his story is, him getting better, but basically a miracle that Mo survived, right? So it's just that reminder, um, And at that point, neither one of them were in the streets anymore, right? Like this wasn't because of, something that had just happened. It was just, well, actually, no, I take that back because they were aiming at Mo. That's what it was. Dominic and Chloe were in the car, but they were aiming at Mo because something
Mm-hmm.
that Mo had just done, right?
Right.
So it was another issue of when you ascend, taking taking your people with you don't always work out,
Right.
right? And how you do that and how you go about that. And you can't take everyone, and what does that mean for the ones that you leave behind? And so all of those things that, but she just laid out in a way where, again, not overpowering the story, but also from where we saw them in Saving Sunflower to now where we see them in Endgame, where the material needs are no longer a concern. You're like, yep, but bullshit continues to abound because that's how life
Right.
goes.
Right. Right. And yeah, these were both really complicated stories and I think that's why in the moment I read Cranky, because I was like, I want everybody to be happy. Why she keep making me go through this with these children? Because like you have some young adults in your life, and I have some young adults in my life, and all we ever want is to wrap them in bubble wrap
Yes.
and just be still. Why don't you sit down? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, why are
Yes.
you looking for the trouble? It's stressing me out. But after it was over, I could it got a little sweeter as some more days passed.
Right.
But in it, I was just like, she will not let these children be happy. And I, like, Jesus Christ, just let the children.
I remember like connecting with her and basically being like, lady, I am taking a road trip to Texas. I'm going to hunt you down and sit in your backyard and just sob because why are you doing this to me? Like, this is
Right.
ridiculous. This is crimes against readers.
Yeah, why don't you
And I am
just let
placing you
these
under
children?
arrest.
Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was hard. Okay, wait. So go ahead.
I think you're right, right? I think it's almost like until you knew they were going to be okay, it was hard to fully enjoy for me, even, in the moment, the sweet moments, where I was like, but I was still on pins and needles about what is going to happen to these poor people, right? And so with
Mhm.
Dominic and Chloe, it was the physical safety, right?
Yeah,
Is he going to be okay? Is she going to be okay? Is the guy going to come back? Like, what's going to happen? Because I'm like, okay, they'll be together. Whereas with the end game, it was neither one of them were in physical danger. I wasn't worried. I was not worried that Joe was going to get hurt. I didn't think Ray was going to be that evil, right? So I was like, no, he'll be fine. But it was the mental and I'm like, are they gonna figure it out? I didn't even figure it out. I didn't even Journey's cranky and she's crying and she wants to know where Joe is. Daddy, daddy.
yeah.
Just, you know.
And the baby was just wailing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
it
I
was a
mean, by
lot.
the end, right, when Jade finally just, pulls Journey up and takes her to the stadium or to his apartment for the game and whatnot.
Yeah,
It's just like, we're here. I was like, girl, I'm exhausted too. I
right.
can't. I
And
was
he
right
said, I
along
knew
with
you was gonna
them
come home. And
in
I
my
was like,
underwear,
oh,
like,
yeah.
disheveled appearance because I too just pulled myself together, grabbed my car keys and wallet. It was like, let's go. Because I couldn't take it. Like
It
I
was
was
a
wiped
lot.
out. It
It
was a
was
lot.
a lot. It was a lot. Yeah.
So yes, we will have to beat her I mean, let me not say that that's an admission. We
Right.
will
You
wrap
an
her in
attorney
arms of love.
in arms of
Um,
love. Then that's gonna be cold. No, I'm just kidding.
was brilliantly written. Just
Yeah,
to pull all of that out of you, while still giving you, you know, two love stories
for sure.
again, right? Maybe not romance, but definitely two love stories that were just like, oh, yes, y'all, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. What surprised you? What made you cringe?
Hmm. Let me take cringe first. Nothing is coming to immediate mind that
Terry
made
stressed
me
me out.
cringe. Not cringe. I was sadly not surprised and I was embarrassed for Joe, but I didn't cringe over the reading. right? And I was just like, no, because by then, right, we already had, as the readers, a bit of an emotional attachment to Josiah
Yeah.
from Saving Sunflower, right? So now when we get into his story, and it's like, oh no, this baby doesn't know how to, like, he can't put together like a college level, you know, assignment.
Right.
My
Right.
like I so
And
it
what is he
didn't.
doing in his other class?
Yeah, it well, he was failing them.
Yeah.
Remember, he was failing them. The coach is like, so you're only the tutor for English. Like, what in the holy hell is going on? Like, he told
Hmm.
me you were tutoring him for all these classes. So I felt like it didn't make me cringe, but I felt so bad for Joe. And I was just like, ah, but also wasn't surprised, right? Um, with Saving Sunflower, I don't know that there were any of those moments, and I don't know that anything comes to mind in terms of cringe. I think, Eric, right?
Mm.
Eric, and cringe is too strong. I think I just had like secondhand embarrassment for Eric because I
Okay.
was like, oh baby, I was like, she don't see, like, it is never going to happen. It's
Right. She don't
never
even
going
know
to
you
happen,
standing right here.
right? Like, it's never going to happen, you know. And Chloe's naivete when it came to Eric was annoying, but it was like, it was like, girl, that was another one of those where Autumn was like, can you knock it off, please? Can you stop
Hmm.
acting dumb, deaf, and blind like you don't realize he likes you? Because this routine is getting tired, you
Yeah.
know? So like I said, it didn't rise to the level of cringe, but I was just like, oh, Eric, you poor baby. You just need to, like, go away. Go away. Bless your
Yeah.
heart.
Bless his little simple heart.
Yes. Yes.
Anything from the second book from the end game?
Well, I covered it in game first, but
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
sec
yeah.
your second question was surprise, and
Surprise, yeah.
I don't no, I don't think they were like dun dun
Hmm.
dun. There's no surprises in that respect. It was just like these were like angst from like beginning to end, like tense of what's gonna happen, what is gonna happen.
Yeah.
So I think I wasn't, yeah, I can't think of anything that was like a surprise. I just remember being completely wrung out by the end, like, oh my god, you just stressed me, and it felt so good, you know.
Hmm.
so so yeah, no surprises. How about
Um,
yourself?
Terry's little comments, her little side comments sometimes, and I was just like, ooh. Like, and I don't know if it's cringe in the truest sense, but they definitely like rankled me. Like that was just like, Terry, leave her alone. Jesus, just think it sometimes. Why you got to say it?
Yeah.
And Mark doing his best to run interference,
Yes.
where he
Yes.
could, but um all of that was just a lot. I'm
And you
trying to.
know what? I liked that Terry was not, unlike Diane, who basically, from what we see, Diane, there was no man or even potential man in the picture, I don't think. Or maybe Dominic is like speculating that there might be somebody at the church, but that person never materializes for real for us. So it's always the idea of someone for Diane, if it even gets that far. Whereas at least Terry had a man, right? Because it would have
Yeah,
been easy to make Terry like full cliche where Terry is alone and you're like, well, she's probably also alone and bitter and lonely and all of those other things. Whereas Terry was in what appeared to be a healthy, happy, long-term relationship, right? And Mark was a very good guy, like you said, running interference. He balanced her. I appreciated that Ray did that because I think it would have been very easy to just lean into the Terry's making some good points, but Terry's also lonely and bitter.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's part of it too.
I agree. She was a
Yeah.
lot for me sometimes.
Yeah.
um, let's see. Oh, I done clicked away from the list. Do. Okay. Favorite characters and favorite moments, or least favorite characters and least favorite moments,
I
which we've gotten
mean,
into a little bit.
yeah, because of all of them, Joe was just such a, oh, my
He's a
sweetheart.
sweetheart.
Yeah, and so I would say in the end game, loving the overall story, the favorite moments were him and Journey, you know, because that was, and even however sweet he was to Jade, like his interactions with the way he just got her,
Mm-hmm.
what was just beautiful to watch unfold. Whereas I think Saving Sunflower is harder for me to kind of pick out um, certain moments because it was just so much more intense.
It
This
was.
is
It
the word that
was.
I keep coming back to for Saving Sunflower. It was very intense.
Yeah.
Whereas you know, the end game also had its intensity, but I think Joe's sweetness um helped balance that out.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think like you're saying, it was just Joe. He was just so sweet. It wasn't nothing we could do about it. He
Yes.
just wanted a family. I
Yes,
ain't
he
even sure he
did.
wanted to play football. I mean, he did, but he wanted the family above everything.
Yes, right. Like it was very the football situation was very practical and straightforward for him. This is how I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
take care of my family being my niggas that I'm responsible for, right?
Right.
Because Diane was already taken care of. So
Right.
he wasn't thinking about it like his mother and Dominic, Chloe, Evie already taken care of, courtesy
Mm-hmm.
of Dominic. But he was just kind of like, I have this incredible God-given talent, but I don't even deserve this. It should be Dre. But since it's me, I'm carrying that guilt, but also I have this obligation to make sure I get to the next level because I have people I need to take care of. Or,
Yeah.
Audriana,
It was
um,
Rihanna. Yeah, Audriana.
and make sure that Dre is straight. Make sure that Audriana's mother is straight, right? Because that's how I take care of Dre, by making sure that his family is taken care of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the football thing, it wasn't even like, oh, the dream. It wasn't the dream, right? It was, and once you knew about all that he'd lost, you were kind of like, yeah, I guess that would, that disabused you of all the, you know childhood dreams of, oh, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna be a star. And I was like, who cares? Like, I watched my childhood sweetheart get murdered in front of me, and then I went and murdered the friend who killed her. Like, and my boy is serving the rest of his life in prison for that. Like, that kind of rips off the rose-colored glasses of, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be amazing.
Yes. Yes. How did you feel about the rockiness, the little bit of bumps between Chloe and Dominic in the second book?
I thought that was real,
Yeah.
right? Because it's still new. And Evie came into the picture when they were still very new as a couple.
Right.
And so once a baby's in the picture, it's like all of your time, energy, effort, and focus is on this little human being. They can't do anything for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So the notion of continuing to build your relationship and still getting to know each other, right? They have this amazing connection, but they were still getting to know each other. So that made sense to me. It made sense to me that just because it's 2 years now down the line, but it's 2 years that have included him being in jail, him getting out of jail, his star going through the roof. So now he's on the road a lot. They have a baby. And then, of course, Mo's shooting happens with them in the car. Like, that's a lot.
It is.
That's a lot.
It is a
And oh,
lot.
by the way, they're what, 22 and 20 at this point?
Right. Right.
Yeah. I'm starting to agree with you that we are going to have to berate Ray and demand
But
that
she's
we
not a
get.
nice person. No.
Yes.
Mm-mm. She's not a nice person, and I don't know why anybody feels that she is, because she's not. So
like we want a novella. We literally just want all sweetness.
yeah, she played
That's
too
what we want.
much.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a lot of
yeah.
people like that. I'm gonna tell you, it's a lot of authors that don't know how to act, and that's why sometimes I make it my business to um how can I put this?
Don't
Demonstrate
incriminate
my
yourself.
displeasure.
Okay, okay, yes. That's nice and vague. Good job, good job, good job.
For sure, because I want these babies to be happy, and you're not letting them be happy. Explain yourself.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to have that conversation with her. We holding up the line at behind the pen. No, no, we want answers.
Right. Y'all
We
move.
want
You
answers.
should have got here before I did. Get from behind me in the slide and go find you something to eat, because I'm talking.
Oh my goodness.
Last couple questions before we close. How did what questions do you still have? And is there anybody that you still want to get their own book?
Well, I mean, she answered it because of course you're left wondering how is Mo doing? We find out, right,
Yeah.
in Mo's book. How is Dre doing? We find out in Dre's book. And so I will give her credit that she didn't leave us hanging on them, because they, they were the two people outside of their women.
Hmm.
Mo is, outside of Joe, probably the most precious person outside of Joe and Chloe and Evie, right? The most precious person to Dominic.
Hmm.
And then I think same for Joe and Dre, right? Like Dre is his best friend. And so you do see them work through their stuff, as well, because there is some stuff there, that they work through, in Dre's book.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I think we've done a fair bit of covering things. Is there anything else you want to share
No,
before we
other
close out?
than, like, I think this was therapeutic for me because, in my rantings at Ray, in the moment after reading them, but really talking it through with you, it's the intensity. It was the
Yeah.
intensity. These were
Yeah.
very emotionally intense stories. And how dare she? How dare she?
No, that's okay. We'll resolve it at behind the
Yes.
scenes. Don't worry.
Yes. Thank you. You will get me justice. You
Yeah.
will get me
All will be made
justice.
well.
Uh yeah. So yeah, no unresolved questions, and the folks who we wanted to see how they fared, we got those. We
Yeah.
got those. And like I said, I think like I'm glad she did that because Dominic and Joe both were the extraordinarily lucky ones that their talent was able to lift them out.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to the ones that don't have the extraordinary talent and get lucky.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I would agree.
yeah. Don't they deserve love too?
They
Yes,
do. And
they
so
do.
everybody should get a book 10 years from today or 10 years from where they left off, where they're happy and free and don't have no questions or concerns. And finally, they can just, not constantly be thinking about other shoes dropping,
Yeah, yeah.
which
That
is,
would be interesting. I think particularly for
yeah,
Dominic, right? Because now if you're talking a decade into being in a relationship and being emotionally accountable to someone else, because he knows
mhm,
how to be accountable for other things, but
right.
emotionally accountable, right? And what that looks like,
Yep.
um would, I think, be very interesting, because I think when we're left with Joe, I am, fairly confident in Joe's ability to be, and they're not married, they might be engaged in 30,
Okay.
but they're not married. But I'm relatively comfortable that Joe will know how to be the kind of husband that Jade needs, and certainly the kind of father, right, that Journey needs. He's already proven it. We've seen that, right? Whereas Dominic's learning curve was steeper on that, in terms of as a partner, as a boyfriend, as a
Mm-hmm.
husband, right? So that would be interesting. Like I didn't doubt his dedication to his family, but I think he was probably still struggling with communication,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? So yeah.
And yeah, oof, yeah. I'm saying only because I'm thinking of like how would that even look?
Hmm.
Because he would still have some of the same problems in
Yeah.
terms of like who can I trust, and
Yeah.
especially in the industry that is designed to steal from him,
Yep.
and make more from his talent than he can.
Yep.
And him grappling with that, I think would be interesting while at the same time growing with Chloe. So that would be weird. That's a little bit of a lift there.
Yeah. So it's official. We'll have a whole outline for her.
Yeah, I'll send her some notes for sure. Yeah.
Like, this is how you can give
make
us
sure
the
she know how I want the story to go.
That's right. Here's the novella outline. Go ahead. Go forth. Go do it. There you go.
This is King Bambi territory for me a little bit.
Hilarious.
So that's what I mean by, like, just give me just a little piece of something so I know they all right.
I think we're gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
I think you've convinced me. I might have been willing to leave it alone, but now that I've, caucused with my partner in insanity, I walk away from this conversation convinced that I must once again revisit harassing Ray.
Oh, I'm so glad I could help you.
Yeah. I appreciate this. You've clarified my thinking on this whole thing, and I'm gonna go back to stalking her. She's like, I have a new book. Can you focus on the new book? No, I cannot. I'm already preparing myself to be completely irrational and annoying.
Sounds good. I love it. Hate to, because I don't like to be by myself. So
well, there you go. You always have me to bail you out of jail.
Right, exactly. Now don't go too far, because I can't bail you out. Okay.
Fair.
You can get me out, but I can't get you out. So
fair.
I can come and be therapeutic.
I've got to stay in the misdemeanor realm.
Yeah, stay in the misdemeanor territory. Yeah. Stay in the fine territory.
felony bail gets quite expensive. They start wanting you to put houses up as collateral and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I realize.
Can you imagine me trying to explain this to your husband? No, because see, we was talking about this book.
Right. Right. Yeah. That would go over so well. So well. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, child. He told me you were the collateral. That's you are the collateral. We taking you down there.
Basically.
I don't think I would be successful trying to convince Tita that it wasn't my fault.
Next podcast, I'd be like, so he's divorcing me, and
right. And I'm not on the podcast because I'm in the hospital. He didn't do it, but he made sure it got done. That's for sure.
I'm glad that even after all of this, we're able to end with smiles and laughter.
Yes.
Despite what Ray Lyse did to our emotions.
Horrible.
We're coming for you, Ray Lyse. We're coming for you. In the best of ways possible. This is not a threat. I repeat, this is not a threat.
I love it.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.